Hello, welcome to another Parallel Project Training podcast. These podcasts are based on the new APM PMQ syllabus for exams starting after September 2024. My name's Ruth Phillips. I'm here with my colleague Lisa Regan, who is one of Parallel's senior trainers. And today we are going to be talking about reviews. So welcome to the podcast, Lisa.
Hi Ruth, thank you. Looking forward to talking about reviews today.
Lots to talk about on reviews. We're pinning the podcasts down to the APM PMQ syllabus. So I'm just going to have a look at the overall learning objective for reviews, and then we can start talking about each learning outcome in a bit more detail.
Okay.
So first of all, we're looking to understand reviews as a way of gathering information to provide an assessment on the status of a project and the ongoing viability of the work. And that's quite interesting because we've got another podcast about business case where we very much talk about how the business case is the justification, showing that the project is viable on an ongoing basis. So it might be interesting for people to listen to that one as well. First of all, then, let's think about the type of reviews that we conduct on our project. And the first learning outcome is to understand the benefit of conducting those reviews throughout the life cycle. So talk to me about the different types of review that we have, Lisa.
So the three types of review that are mentioned in the syllabus.
Yeah.
Decision gate reviews, go or no go, I call them, benefits reviews and audits.
Okay, perfect. So let's take decision gates then. First of all, who's involved in that as a review and what's the purpose of doing it?
So the decision gate reviews, the go or no go, the project manager for sure would be there, and the sponsor. Depending on the project, you might ask other people from the team to come along. Just depends.
Okay.
Depends what their level of involvement is, but on a higher level, it's usually project manager and sponsor, and a lot of data is attending the go or no go.
Yeah, they wrap themselves in their spreadsheets.
That's it, absolutely. So if we're talking about benefits specifically, because the syllabus talks about benefits, the benefits of doing these go or no go reviews, number one, it's giving you that framework to make sure you're on track. It gives you that deep breath, doesn't it? Let's just make sure that we're still on track. And as you already mentioned, Ruth, that the benefits in the business case are still viable. Fundamentally, it's about the relationship between the project manager and the sponsor, isn't it? I just said that the project manager and the sponsor are the two key players in the go or no go. It helps to develop trust between the two of them. It's a time really to say, maybe things haven't gone as well as I was hoping, but this is where we're at.
It's also a good point to take stock, to pause.
Yes.
To learn some lessons, to be able to reset if necessary. We'll talk at the end of this podcast about why things might require replanning after you've had a review. It's a really good opportunity to have that pause and reflect at certain points throughout the project. I've also been talking to our colleague Carmen about costs and budgets on the project, and we were talking about release of funds in a stage way as we go through the project. Might that be linked to a decision gate as well?
Absolutely. It's a physical gate, if that makes sense. It's a good analogy. It really is. A go or no go. It's, are we going to carry on or not? And it could be a milestone in the project. Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So that's given me a really good view of what decision gates are. The next type of review that the syllabus talks about is a benefit review. What's that? Who's involved and why do we do one?
So benefits reviews, the project manager is not involved because it's in the extended life cycle. So sponsor absolutely is the driver. People from the project team would be expected to come along to the benefits review. It's looking at the benefits that are in the business case. Have we achieved them? If not, why not? That's what's important with the benefits review, because it doesn't automatically happen. Benefits just don't get realised. Through the benefits process, which we'll talk about in another podcast, we get to the realisation in the extended life cycle, and we're trying to drive a discussion about what is the benefit, have we realised it, if not, put some plan in place. That's what's important for me about the benefits review. And you might have more than one. You might have one in 6 months, one in 12 months, one in 2 years, depending on how those benefits are planned to be observed.
Yeah, so depending on what we've put in our business case to say what the realisation timescale is, that will determine when those benefit reviews take place.
And I think what people forget sometimes about benefits reviews, it's a great chance to say well done to people. It's a great chance to just say, this is what we did, we made a difference, well done everybody. I don't think that happens enough.
Absolutely, that's celebration of success.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've found on certain projects that these benefits reviews get forgotten, maybe
Yeah.
because there's not a project manager
Yeah.
following everyone round with a Gantt chart saying we've got to be doing
Yeah.
one of these. So
Yeah.
how do we make sure that they do actually get done?
That's the responsibility of the sponsor to
Okay, yeah.
drive that and really take up the baton. When the project manager is no longer around, they are the constant that's
Yeah.
still there. So even though they might not actually be tracking the benefits, they might not be doing the reporting, they will be driving that process.
Yeah, it's still their accountability, isn't it? As the kind of the
Yes.
owner of the
Yeah.
business case, the benefits
Yeah.
are very much part of that.
Yeah.
Right. So what about the final type of review then? We've got audits. That sounds a little bit scary.
Okay, audits come under the realm of the PMO, the Project Management Office, because they're quite different to the other types of reviews.
Yeah.
They should be done by
Right,
someone independent to the project. It could be someone from the PMO, someone internal. The key phrase for me that comes up with audits is, can you show me? Can you show me how you do this? In comparison of the other two reviews, they're more about procedures, checking. Can you show me how you do this? Can you show me an example of when you've done that? And it's asking you to provide evidence. That's what an audit talks about.
So it's about what you said you were going to do and then
Yeah.
providing the evidence that that's how you actually.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, similar to what we've already mentioned, it gives you a chance to stop and breathe, but it gives you a chance to say what's going wrong. It gives you a chance to put it right. I think that's what people forget about audits. It's not just about bashing someone over the head. It's about saying, we could do this better. Let's make it better.
So you talked about decision gates being linked to milestones within the project lifecycle, benefits reviews happening in that benefit realization period. When do audits happen and how often do they happen?
So audits could happen at any time. That's the nature of them. They could happen at any stage of the life cycle at any time. But for me, the key is that it's got to be someone independent that's doing the audit.
Okay, so those are decision gates, benefit reviews, and audits. And I think we've got a good idea of how they can be really helpful in the project life cycle. So learning outcome B is that we need to know the factors that would be typically reported on to help ensure successful project outcomes. So when we're going through a review, let's say at the decision gate, what are the things that we're going to be reporting on?
For me, it always comes back down to time, cost, quality, risk and benefits, the pentagon of success criteria, because they are the things that you will be measured on at the end of the project. So you should be reporting on them. I'll start with time. How do we report time? Usually through the Gantt chart. That's where we get the tasks over time. And we report it by saying percentage complete for a task. And then that gives us an overall idea of how we're getting on from the point of delivering to time.
Am I on track? Am I on the schedule? Yeah.
Absolutely. So time we've dealt with. Cost, if we go to, probably the most common way is actual versus planned spend. So you're reporting on that and you're saying, this is what we're planning to spend in this period and this is what we've actually spent. Obviously, if you've overspent, you've got to put some kind of corrective action in place. If you've underspent, what's going to happen to the budget that's still in the pot?
Is this where, again, referring to another podcast, we're talking about earned value? That why maybe earned value analysis could actually be helpful and used in a review as well?
Absolutely. So the CPI, the cost performance index, or the cost variance would come into the kind of data that you would present. Report about earned value.
That's time and cost, then.
So
scope
quality, we could talk about how many things have passed the quality control activity. That would drive actions, wouldn't it? If you'd found out that 50% of your product wasn't passing a certain test, something's got to be done about it. Health and safety reports. In organisations I've worked for, we had to report every month on minor accidents, minor injuries, near misses. So health and safety can be a big driver for reporting.
We talked about benefit in terms of benefit review, but what about reporting risk for a project review?
The risk, you'd usually use the risk log, wouldn't you? So it's that continually moving state of play. Where are we up to? So as new risks come along, they'll be logged on the risk log, and hopefully as they become closed, you take them off the risk log, but it's the live document. That's the way of reporting, isn't it?
So there's quite a lot of data that we're reporting on here. Are there any kind of things that we need to think about in terms of how we present that data, how we make it clear to all the people that will be reviewing it? Have you got any advice about that?
Well, there's the acronym, I think of it as being CART, clear, accurate, relevant and timely. Did I get that right?
I like that. I've never heard that put into an acronym before, but I love that one. So we need to make sure that, everything is clear. Absolutely, everything's got to be accurate, because if this is going to be particularly a go, no go, we're making a decision about that. So it's got to be absolutely accurate. And then relevant, It's got to be to the point in hand and timely as well. If we don't have that data for the go, no go decision gate, then, that's not going to be much use to us, is it? So those are the factors that we'd be typically reporting on. The next learning outcome is that we've got to understand the importance of producing information and collecting data to inform decision making and communicate actions and decisions to stakeholders. Wow, there's a lot in that one, isn't there? So what's the importance of all of this data and information then in terms of decision making? Let's talk about that first.
I'll go through some of the things we've already mentioned and then talk a bit about why each one of them is important. So we talked about risk. What's the importance of reporting on risk so that you can do something about it, isn't it? So any kind of action that you need to take, or if you even need to escalate, it's really important to be reporting on risk, isn't it?
Absolutely. Just like act before the fact.
That's it. I like that one. That's a good one. Make sure that any actions we need to undertake have been given to someone, or if it's got to be escalated, that you get that put in place.
Right. Okay.
So we talked about having to report on progress in terms of time. Why do we do that? So that we can get a better understanding of the real status of the project. How are we doing? How are we progressing along that road to a successful project?
Yeah, absolutely. I really like that image that you've just sparked in my head, because we've got our project management plan, but that was the baseline and that was the snapshot when we started, before we actually started doing stuff. Status reporting is so important to be able to show us that we're still on the right journey. What about knowledge and information management?
So knowledge and information, it's basically looking at what was done on a past project and understanding the right time to do things in your project going forward. Your lessons learned is always what went well and what didn't go so well. Building that in to how you're doing it. So it's important to use that information and then inform your decisions, if that makes sense. It's a real gold nugget is lessons learned, because you can say, we're not going to do it like that again. We're going to make things better next time around.
Absolutely. And all too often I find projects really being backward looking in terms of lessons. They think about all the things that, if only, but they don't think about drawing those lessons in to the project, into the next stage of the project, and really learning from them. That's really important for the project to have a growth mindset, a continuous learning environment. I think that's really beneficial. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Right. So we've got our last learning outcome now. We hinted about this in some of the discussions that we had earlier. We've got to understand why activities may need to be replanned after a review. So what are some of the circumstances that might lead us to actually have to replan after we've gone through a review? Have you got any examples of that?
Well, generically, I'm thinking about if people's motivation is quite low on a project.
Okay.
You might put a replan in place to try and get people back on board. If people are struggling or things are not going well on this project, a review has brought up certain problems and you thought, hang on, it really would help to replan with realism in mind. And to get people's buy-in to your plans, sometimes you've got to bite the bullet and say, I need to be realistic. I'd like to achieve it then, but I'm actually going to achieve it now. Hopefully that can keep people invested.
So I guess some of those other circumstances that have led to that poor motivation could actually trigger replanning as well.
Absolutely. So you carry out the actions and you've solved the issues, but then you'd put a replan in place after the review because you're taking into account all those actions that you've completed, if that makes sense.
A little bit of a clean slate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've had a few examples on projects where we've had difficulties with external contractors or the wider supply chain, and we've replanned after having a review because we felt that actually we need to do something about that, the health of the relationships with our contractors.
Again, in a similar way to people's motivation, it's more important to be realistic, isn't it? So a review has given you those red flags, and it's fundamental really to change things based on those, isn't it? Don't put your head in the sand and just have a review and go, okay, give it lip service and then move on. You do need to fundamentally change the way that you're doing things in order to be able to deliver.
Isn't it that saying of that's what madness is, doing the same things again but expecting different results? And I guess this is what we're trying to avoid here, that, things haven't maybe turned out as planned, but we are going to replan, do things slightly differently, recalibrate, reset, so that we can actually get some different results.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we've covered everything in the review section of the syllabus. We've looked at the different types of reviews, decision gates, benefit reviews and audits, and the benefits of doing that and who would be involved. We've looked at things that we would be reporting on. We've looked at the importance of that information to help us with decision making and communication. And then we've said, okay, what would happen if we need to, or what triggers a replan after a review? That's been a really comprehensive look at reviews, a good review of reviews.
Oh, nice. Thanks,
there we go.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you.